Hey guys, welcome back to another Clash Royale video, and today we have the highly anticipated updated tier list ranking every single card in Clash Royale for the new meta. And we have some big changes on this list. Some of the cards that were previously at the top of my last list have fallen down, and some of the cards that were previously at the bottom of my list are now at the top. So we have some absolutely absurd changes. By the way, guys and girls, this is based off of my personal opinion after playing Clash Royale for over 5 years, as well as the win rates and use rates of the actual cards provided by the website Royale API. In fact, after I share with you guys my complete tier list, we'll jump over to Royale API and take a look at the actual card stats on ladder and in grand challenges, so we have some actual data to look at as well. But first things first, we already have the tier list pulled up over here with 5 different tiers ranging from S tier, aka strong,
yeah, boy,
all the way down to D tier, aka needing some rework or a buff really badly. First things first, guys, we have the infamous, the famous, the elite Barbarians. And you know that saying, zero to hero? That is the case with the elite Barbarians. They used to be previously the D tier. On my last tier list, they have gone all the way up to S tier because of one balance update. In fact, they even got an emergency nerf after a couple of weeks as well, and they are still an S tier card, one of the strongest cards in the entire game, which is kind of funny because if you watch my previous tier list, they were one of the worst cards in the entire game, and they were ranked D, and now all the way up to S tier. Very solid card in Clash Royale. We have archers over here. Once again, going to be an average card as well. Babe Dragon is above average. It is one of the best splash damage cards in the entire game. 4 Elixir, flying, which means it can't be attacked by any ground units. It has decent damage, decent health as well. Doesn't die to a lot of spells. And just overall is one of the best splash damage cards in the entire game. Bandit is also going to be an A tier card. For 3 Elixir, she offers so much utility. She has insane pressure when spammed at the bridge. Her dash attack can actually be used to stop a Prince charge without taking damage, so she is a pretty strong card in Clash Royale, therefore on the A tier. Barbarian Hut, unfortunately, is going to be C, below average. Just really hard in the current meta and just overall in Clash Royale to ever get any good value out of a Barbarian Hut, just because it does cost 7 Elixir and dies fairly easily to spells because of the health nerf that it received a couple of balances ago. Barbarians, I'm going to throw an average. Barbarians can be very effective in fireball bait strategies. However, I don't think they're overly that strong by themselves. By the way, guys and girls, B tier is like the baseline of a good and balanced card in Clash Royale. Anything above B tier is kind of above average in terms of raw power. Anything below B tier could use a slight buff. So next card over here is gonna be the Barbarian Barrel. Honestly, S tier. One of the strongest spells in the game, only a 2 elixir cost, will destroy Swarm, has a Barbarian spawning up for the extra utility of destroying enemy units, and has the ability to apply pressure when spammed at the bridge, and if they don't respond to it, it gets 2 Barbarian swings to a tower for some insane damage for only a 2 elixir cost. Bats over here, going to go on A tier, above average. They're just one of those cards that honestly, for 2 elixir, insane damage output, almost always forces out a response from your opponent in the form of a spell, and if your opponent doesn't have a proper response for it, they can get insane value for you. So Bat's definitely going to be A tier, above average. Battle Healer, honestly, might even be below average, but I'm going to go ahead and throw her in average because I don't want to see a buff for the Battle Healer. She is one of those cards that can be very tough to stop in certain circumstances, and one of the more frustrating cards in Clash Royale to face when you have a Battle Healer keeping everything alive. Battle Ram over here, I would say average as well. Dark Goblin, definitely average. Isn't too strong, isn't too weak, basically does what it's supposed to pretty effectively, and therefore is B tier. Bomber got a nice little rework in the last balance update. Ignore this 3 elixir cost right here. It now costs 2 elixir, but it hasn't made the bomber too strong, if you know what I mean. It's obviously, I think it's better than it was beforehand, but it isn't strong enough to go into A tier territory, if that makes sense. So I would say definitely still a B tier card with the Bomby Boy. Bomb Tower over here. I would say B tier. I think it does what it's supposed to, but it's just currently outshined by a couple of other buildings in the game right now, which I'll get to a little bit later on. Bowler. Honestly, Bowler, I changed my mind on Bowler. I think Bowler is an average card. It does what it's supposed to very effectively. We're seeing the card meta right now that's dominated by Elite Barbarians and Royal Hogs and Mother Witches, that the Bowler can be a very effective counter for those cards. So I'm going to go ahead and throw it on average. You don't see it a whole lot because it is a 5 elixir card and only works in certain matchups and certain strategies. So therefore, it's going to go on B tier. Pomp, unfortunately, is one of the worst cards in the game. 60 elixir cost, very, very risky card, very hard to pull off, and very, very easy for your opponent to get spell value against. Therefore, D tier just isn't overall a very effective card. Inferno Tower, I'm going to throw in B tier this time. I think last time I ranked it as C, but honestly, the Inferno Tower, like, it does what it does pretty effectively, but the problem with the Inferno Tower is it's very easy to distract. Like, lots of decks will have a Zap spell in there, a lightning spell in there, or even stuff like bats or skeleton barrels to just distract your Inferno Tower very, very effectively. So it's just hard to kind of pull off successfully in a wide variety of matchups. Mortar, honestly, could be A tier if you wanted it to be, but I'm gonna throw it at B tier. Mortar is a fairly effective card as a win condition, but it also doubles as a defense as well, and it can be used to assassinate the support troops behind a big tank. For example, if your opponent's going giant push or golem push, go mortar in the middle of your base, and basically the mortar shells will actually land and destroy the support behind their tank, so it can be effective both on offense and defense. Tesla Tower. I'm going to rank Tesla Tower as A tier. It's one of those cards that's just, it's strong, dude. It's a very, very effective and elixir efficient defense for destroying air and ground units. I think Tesla Tower is a strong defense in Clash Royale. Expo over here, I'm going to rank as average. I think last time I did my tier list, I ranked it as below average because it was just recently nerfed and wasn't very effective. But as we're starting to see the meta kind of play out, we're seeing lots of Expo decks still surviving and still very, very effective despite the last nerf to the Expo. Cannon card here, I honestly think Cannon card is A tier. I don't know, many might disagree with that fact or that opinion, sorry, but I think Cannon card, despite the speed change, still is a very strong range support unit and counters some pretty good win conditions. Like, it counters the Mortar, it counters the Expo, it can be used to counter things like Electro Giant because of the long range and high damage. Overall, just a solid card in Clash Royale if you ask me. Cannon, however, without the wheels, not very good. The singular cannon for 3 elixir is only ever really used in the classic 2.6 hog cycle, which is a very, very hard deck to use successfully. Overall, cannon just isn't really effective. Balloon is a card that I used to rank as S tier, one of the best win conditions in the game, but because of the last nerf and the last balance update to the balloon, it has now fallen down to A tier. It is still one of the stronger win conditions in Clash Royale, however, just isn't as dominating as it once was, because with the nerf to the balloon death bomb in the last balance update, it no longer kills things like archers with that death bomb, which is a very, very big nerf to the effectiveness of that card, but it is still a very strong win condition Clash Royale. Now, Golem over here is still going to be a B tier, kind of average slash good card. By the way, I changed the ranking over here because I feel like saying average is kind of like has a negative connotation towards it. But when I say average, when I say B tier, what I really mean is that it's like the baseline of like balanced, good, does what it's supposed to very effectively, but isn't like overpowered, if that makes sense. I feel like average is a kind of bad way of maybe putting it. Which over here, unfortunately, is still a D tier card, despite, I think she was buffed in the last balance update, I think, but she's still a D tier card. She's just very, very hard to use effectively, and as you guys will see later on in the video when I do the win percentages, she consistently has some of the lowest win rates in the entire game, so unfortunately, which is D tier. Clone Spell, going to be B tier, average, because your opponent can get caught off guard very easily by cloning a bunch of swarms. So Clone Spell, B tier, average as well. Dark Prince, I want to say Dark Prince is A tier, above average. 4 elixir, has a charge attack, does a ton of damage to a tower if ignored, and has that splash damage, and is an effective mini tank as well because of the shield. So I would say Dark Prince, A tier. Night Witch over here is going to be B tier average. Earthquake is going to go down to A tier. It used to be previously an S tier. It is now down to A tier. Just isn't as effective in the current meta because we aren't seeing as much building usage in this meta right now. And the buildings that are being used, like Goblin Cage, the Earthquake just isn't value against. Electro Dragon is going to be B tier, good / average. Electro Giant, honestly, an argument could be made for the E Giant being S tier / strong. But the one thing that keeps me from ranking the E Giant as S tier is the fact that it can be so easily pulled by buildings. The E Giant, I think, has the biggest pull radius out of all of the tanks. If you don't know what I mean, when an E Giant crosses the bridge, your opponent can use a building, like a defensive building, like a Tesla or a bomb tower or whatever, way over on the opposite side of the arena, and it'll still pull that E Giant across. And the E Giant by itself doesn't have a whole lot of health, so if your opponent has buildings in there, it can get destroyed pretty easily. The only saving grace of the Electro Giant is that counterattack, which is absolutely absurd when paired up with things like the NATO spell. And honestly, the counterattack of the Electro Giant is just absolutely absurd by itself, but because of the sight range, the pull range of the E Giant, and the lower health, that prevents it from being ranked in an S tier. Electro Spirit is going to be A tier, above average as well. Very, very strong card. E-Wizard as well. Very versatile. Air defense resets. Spawn spell. Just absolutely absurd. Elixir Golem is going to be C tier, below average. Just isn't overall very effective. You basically give your opponent 4 Elixir. And honestly, lots of the cards in the meta right now, like Mega Knights and Valkyries and stuff like that, just destroy it. Executioner is going to be C tier, below average. 5 Elixir cost. Slow attack speed. Basically, for the most part, just always going to be better off using a Baby Dragon. Costs 1 less Elixir, has similar health, has splash damage attack, and basically is flying as well. So just it's kind of like a better Executioner in a sense. Firecracker over, I was going to say Fire Dragon. Firecracker over here is B tier, average, good. Very, very annoying card if you don't have like arrows for it, but it basically can be free King Tower activation in almost every battle you use it, so it's a bit of a trade-off there. Fireball is going to be above average. Goblin Hunt, unfortunately, below average. Just lots of the spawners right now just aren't doing too hot because they got like a health nerf a while back. Furnace is a step below the Goblin Hunt and is D tier. Just overall just isn't very easy to get any value. Low health, the fire spirits are easy to counter. Any of the spells basically destroy the Furnace, so just overall is a D tier card. Same thing with the fire spirits. Unfortunately, aren't that effective in Clash Royale, which you'll see later on when I show you the actual win percentages. Fishy Boy over here, gonna be A tier, above average. Fly Machine is good. Free Spell, honestly, I would say Free Spell is good right now. There's a couple decks that use Free Spell, Graveyard Freeze, Balloon Freeze, that are pretty viable. So let's throw Free Spell as B tier right now. Ghosty Boy, I'm going to throw in as above average. You know what? Ghost Boy, you get demoted. B tier. You're a good card. You're a good card, but you aren't overpowered. So let's just throw you in B tier. Giant Skeleton, unfortunately, is one of those cards that got hit very, very hard with the nerf bat and is one of the most worthless cards in the game right now because the Giant Bomb doesn't destroy basically anything, so why would you ever use it? So unfortunately, Giant Skeleton is in desperate need of a buff because of the nerf of the last balance update. It used to be B tier, average, good. Now it is D tier. Spear Gobblers, honestly, S tier. Spear Goblins for 2 Elixir, Swarm, Distraction Unit for high damage units like Princes or P.E.K.K.A.s, can put on pressure to a tower, and for 2 Elixir, basically some easy chip damage. Just overall, very, very effective card in Clash Royale and have been for a while now in the game. Goblin Barrel is going to be B tier, average, good. Goblin Cage is A tier. This is what I meant earlier when I said a bomb tower isn't as good because other buildings are stronger. Goblin Cage is one of those cards that just for 4 Elixir, can pull enemy tanks. Then you have the Brawler spawning out afterwards, which has insane damage output and puts on counter pressure to destroy your enemy's tower. So Goblin Cage is just one of the best buildings in the game right now in terms of like distracting enemy tanks. Goblin Gang is going to be average, good. Goblin Giant is average, good. Goblins are average. Yeah, let's say they're average. Actually, you know what? Goblins are going to be B tier, or sorry, C tier. There's not a whole lot of decks that actually use these singular goblins very effectively. So let's go down. Let's go down to C tier with that. Graveyard is gonna be A tier. Actually, you know what? Graveyard right now, because of the Mother Witch, is B tier. If the Mother Witch gets nerfed, you'll see the Graveyard go back up again. But the thing with Graveyard right now is it's just way too risky to use. So Graveyard's going to be B tier average good. It's fallen down quite a bit. Used to be one of the best win conditions in the game, but just too many hard counters for the Graveyard in the meta right now. Heal Spirit got buffed, going all the way from D tier previously, all the way up to A tier once again, because it does do damage once again. Hogwarts is going to be B tier. Hunter fallen down to B tier because of the nerf last time. Ice Golem, honestly, S tier. The thing is Ice Golem, it only costs 2 Elixir and has so much utility. You can pull enemy attackers to the opposite lane. You can distract things for a quick cycle. It has that death damage to destroy things like bats. Just overall is a very Elixir efficient card in the game for what you spend on it, guys and girls. It is just a very, very good card for 2 Elixir. Ice was going to be A tier above average. Inferno Dragon, B tier. Knight, B tier. Lava Hound is going to be B tier as well. Lightning Spell, B tier. Magic Archer, B tier. Mega Knight, B tier. Mega Minion is going to be A tier. One of the best kind of like air defense cards in the game right now. Mine is going to be an A tier above average. Very, very versatile card. Can be used for chip cycle. Can be used for assassinating enemy support units or defending units. And can be used on defense as well if you need to for a mini tank. Minion Horde, D tier. Just way too risky. Too many cards. Counter it for Elixir value like arrows or fireball or even like zap on an ice burst, something like that. Minion Horde is just way too risky to use successfully. Minions, however, gonna be B tier average. Mini P.E.K.K.A's B tier average. Mirror, D tier, not very effective. Mother Witch, this card right here. One of the strongest cards in the game, if not the single strongest card in the entire game right now. Mother Witch is a beast, all the way from D tier last tier list, all the way up to S tier. Once again, 0 to hero with the Mother Witch. Absolutely absurd how strong she is right now. And she is one of the reasons why, for example, Graveyard is down at B tier. Because Mother Witch is just so insane that she just counters everything, has high damage output, fast attack speed, and spawns those piggies. Just absolutely absurd card in Clash Royale right now. Elixir tier is going to be B tier, average good. P.E.K.K.A B tier, average good. Poison is going to be B tier right now. Fireball just kind of a more of effective card overall, especially because Mother Witch, previously you had to have Poison because of Graveyard, but now because of the Mother Witch, you can go ahead and use a Fireball in your deck, and if your opponent has Graveyard, just use Mother Witch, right? So that's pretty cool. Prince is going to be B tier, average good. Princess is B tier. Lumberjack B tier. Rage is going to be a, that's Snowball. Rage right here, B tier. Ram Murder, B tier, average good. Snowball over here is going to be an A tier card. Lots of the 2 Elixir cards, the spells, sorry, are above average just because of the Elixir efficiency and the versatility of those cards. Rascal is going to be average. Rocket's going to be good. Royal Giant's good. Royal Hog's going to be a above average, just very, very strong card in the meta right now. Recruits are good. Skeleton Barrel is going to be A tier once again, just for a bait card, distraction card. For 3 Elixir, just tons of efficiency. Can put on pressure. If your opponent ignores it, does insane damage. Just overall, very, very effective card. Skeleton Dragon is to be good. Skarmy is good. Skeletons, S tier. This is another one of those cards. Whenever I do videos like this, I get comments saying, Shane, they're so weak. The thing is they only cost 1 Elixir. And they have so much versatility. You can counter things like a Musketeer or a Prince or a Mini P.E.K.K.A for 1 Elixir with the skeletons. And at 1 Elixir, there's almost no Elixir efficient responses your opponent can use. Because even if they zap it down, that's a -1 Elixir trade for them, because zap costs 2, skeletons cost 1. So these skeletons are just very, very hard to beat because of the pure efficiency of their 1 Elixir cost. Let's go. Guards over here going to be good, B tier. Ice Spirit going to be A tier card as well. Same thing with Log Spell, A tier. Lots of the kind of Elixir efficient cards are. 3 Musketeers currently might be C tier, like below average. But here's the thing. I think we might see the 3 Musketeers rise into dominance once again. However, we just aren't seeing that in the meta right now. But it remains to be seen. Can they crawl their way back up into the meta without any changes overall? Tombstone's going to be a good card. Tornado Spell, I think, is one of the most busted cards in the entire game. For 3 Elixir, it pulls basically everything in the entire map, obviously I'm exaggerating, into one spot. It is just such a versatile spell. It does damage, it kills swarms like bats, skeletons, spear goblins. You can pull things like balloons or hogs to your king tower. Just so many different things you can do with the tornado spell, guys. I think it's one of the most busted cards in the entire game right now. Valkyrie is going to be, honestly, she's kind of above average right now. Because the meta is dominated by Piggies and Mother Witches and Elite Barbarians, Valkyrie is one of those cards that does very, very well. An argument could be made for Valkyrie being B tier, average good, but I'm going to go ahead and throw in A tier right now. Wall Breakers, similarly, A tier. For 2 Elixir, they do some insane damage, and the Elixir efficiency is absurd as well. Wizard over here is going to be C tier, below average. This is another one of those cards that I get a lot of hate for whenever I rank it. But the reality is there are more Elixir efficient alternatives than the Wizard. That's the biggest thing holding the Wizard back. You'll notice that it's a similar problem with a lot of these cards, which is Executioner and the Wizard, for example. The problem is the 5 Elixir cost. You can go ahead and use a Baby Dragon for 4 Elixir and an Ice Spirit, for example, or a Heal Spirit for the same Elixir cost as a Wizard. Yes, the Wizard can destroy in certain scenarios, but in a deck that is limited by 8 cards, you need each card in your deck to be as versatile as possible, and that way you do better for a wider variety of matchups, and that's why stuff like the Baby Dragon exceeds the Wizard's capability because of the versatility of the Baby Dragon. Sparky's going to be average good. Zappy's average good. The Zaspel once again be a tier above average card. Royal Delivery, good. Giant, good. And the arrows are going to be good as well. So guys and girls, that is our updated tier list for the new meta. What do you think of the changes? Do you agree or disagree with anything on my list? I would love to hear from you. What are your opinions? If there is a card on this list that you disagree with me for, let me know down below in the comments, guys. Let me know what you disagree with. Let me know your reasoning why. But I did promise you guys and girls that I would show you the actual win percentages of the cards as well. So going over here to the website Royale API, you can actually see the use rates and the win rates for all of the cards in Clash Royale as they are tracked by Royale API. And look what we have down here. Elixir Golem, Mirror, Minion Horde, Giant Skeleton, Wizard, Fire Spirit, and the Witch in the Furnace. So a lot of these kind of like low win rate cards kind of line up with almost with some of the D tier that we ranked there earlier, and some of them not. Like obviously Clone Spell I ranked a bit higher, Ram Raider I ranked higher, Firecracker I ranked higher, but for the most part you'll see some of these cards just have some of the lowest win rates in the entire game. And if we go over to Grand Challenges as well, you can see a similar story for some of the cards. As we go down to the bottom list over here, you can see even in Grand Challenges, Witch, Wizard, Fire Spirit, Giant Skeleton, Mirror, Executioner, Cannon, and the Minion Horde, they're all some of the lowest win percentage cards in the entire game. So there's some similarities there from ladder and Grand Challenges. A few of these cards are on the bottom of the win percentage list on both ladder and Grand Challenges because they're hard to get Elixir value for them at their 5 Elixir cost. Anyways, guys and girls, that's the list right there. Like I said before, let me know what you think of my list down below. If you have any feedback, appreciate that as well. And if you want me to do more of these in the future, those comments are appreciated as well, guys and girls. That is the list. I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure to leave a like, subscribe for some Clash Royale content, and we shall see you in the next one.